Chapter 8:26. Now, the 9 provinces party was reunited once again. Apart from Yang Yuan and Giant Armor who had just joined up, everyone else already knew about the mission, so there was no need to go into detail. The Wind and Cloud brothers wanted to help, but they also knew that they were not strong enough. If they really followed Lu Yi and the others, they would only be a burden. By then, let alone help, it would already be great if they did not become a burden. I wish you all a smooth journey ahead. The Wind and Cloud brothers clasped their fists and bowed solemnly. Lu Yi nodded. Go on. Take care. The Wind and Cloud brothers said before rushing into the air. Lu Yi turned around and gazed in the direction of the heavenly palace. He said gently, no one's going to back down at a time like this, right? Feng Ruli sneered. What are you saying? Just kill them. Lu Qing also said, Lu Ye, you may be strong but don't underestimate the others. I might not be able to defeat you, but killing corpses is no problem. Very good. Lu Yi nodded. Then, set off. With that, he turned into a streak of fiery red light and shot off in the direction of the heavenly palace. The others all followed closely behind him. At the same time, many corpses were scattered around within 50 kilometers of the heavenly palace. They either nurtured corpses in slumber or cultivated by themselves. Among them, a steel-skinned zombie stood out the most, and his aura was the most vigorous. He was one of the 3 corpse commanders under the corpse fiend, the Iron Corpse Commander Zhou Yun. Minimization. The corpses were also converted from humans. Zhou Yun came from a human stronghold. He did not achieve much as a human, and his cultivation was not particularly high either. However, after being converted into a corpse, he skyrocketed, becoming one of the 3 corpse commanders in a single stroke. He was also the nightmare of the humans across the peerless continent in the past few centuries. Over a dozen days ago, a human had barged into the secret realm of the heavenly palace, infuriating the corpse fiend. As a result, the heavenly palace had been on extremely tight guard recently, just in case some audacious human disturbed the Golden Corpse King's slumber. The 3 corpse commanders also patrolled the vicinity of the heavenly palace. As a zombie, Zhou Yun was different from the rotting corpses that relied on zombie hordes. He was extremely powerful, so many corpses would avoid him wherever he passed by. Suddenly, he vaguely sensed something and turned his head to look in a certain direction. His dark yellow eyes revealed a look of bewilderment. Soon, his pupils constricted slightly, because in the direction he was looking, there was an obvious golden light escaping, quickly outlining the shape of a door. The entrance to the secret territory. Zhou Yun's heart stirred, immediately understanding what this thing was. Ever since the heaven transformation, the corpse race had seized many secret realms of the human race. However, there were only 3 secret realms that couldn't be found no matter how hard they tried. This was because these 3 secret realms were drifting in the void and didn't have a fixed location. When the doors were opened, they had to be extremely careful and wouldn't be easily discovered by the corpse race. Who would have thought that a door would open in the vicinity of the pure heaven temple? Which mystic realm was this? How could they be so careless? With no time to think, Zhou Yun had already charged towards the door. No matter which secret realm it was a heaven-sent opportunity for him. How could Zhou Yun miss out on something that he couldn't even find on a normal day when it was right in front of his eyes? If he was still a human, Zhou Yun wouldn't act so rashly because even with his strength, if he really broke into the human race's secret realm alone, he wouldn't have a good ending. However, after turning into a corpse race, his intelligence seemed to be less comprehensive. He only knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and didn't consider whether it would be dangerous or not. In the blink of an eye, he rushed in front of the door. However, before he could rush in, a slender jade palm stretched out from the door, and spiritual power surged in the palm. Zhou Yun roared and punched out. When the fist and the palm collided, a violent spiritual power burst out, and a spiritual aura visible to the naked eye surged. Zhou Yun was sent tumbling hundreds of feet away. It wasn't that his strength was inferior to the owner of the jade palm, but one came prepared, and the other rushed to meet the attack. Naturally, the former had the advantage. After stabilizing his body, when he looked up again, There were several figures with powerful auras in front of the open door. The one in the lead was a woman dressed in men's clothes. Pang Huanin. Zhou Yun instantly recognized the woman's identity. Although he had never seen her before, he had heard of her name. He knew that the door that opened here belonged to the Ziwei Daoist Palace. Let's act according to the plan, Pang Huanin said and rushed toward Zhou Yun with Elder Xiao. Back in the secret plane, the Holy Ji Palace had seen Zhou Yun's figure using the celestial mirror. Who didn't know of the famous Iron Corps commander? Therefore, Pang Huanin immediately made a decision. She and Elder Xiao would hold him back while the others rushed out of the secret realm and formed a battle formation. Only in this way could they stand firm and fight against the corpse race. Their mission this time was very simple, which was to make as much noise as possible and attract the attention of the corpse race. Only in this way could Lu Yi and the others have an easier time. This was also the plan she and Lu Yi had long planned. The expansion of the door did not stop. Instead, it continued to expand. From the golden door, cultivators rushed out and gathered in the teams that had been arranged beforehand. The small teams cooperated with each other and formed a huge battle formation. A large number of corpse race members were alarmed and rushed toward them. The flames of war between the humans and the corpse race were instantly ignited. Violent spiritual energy was in chaos. Colorful lights flashed, and the charging corpse race members were constantly knocked out of the air and fell to the ground. Following closely behind the Dao Palace cultivators, a huge and ferocious soaring dragon boat slowly emerged from the door and floated in the air. After the first boat, there was a second one. Then there was a third. The three soaring dragon boats quickly formed a triangular formation in the air, protecting the Dao Palace cultivators. The formation on the soaring dragon boat buzzed. A huge beam of light, like a wandering thunder dragon, slammed into the densest group of corpse race members and opened up a vacuum in the midst of the corpse race members. The buzzing continued, and a large number of corpse race members were turned into nothingness before they could even get close. The few that managed to get close were also mercilessly killed by the Dao Palace cultivators. However, no one rejoiced because of their temporary gains, because as far as the eye could see, in the direction of Turbid Heaven Temple, countless corpse clansmen were swarming over like a tsunami. Even a large number of corpse race members came out of the Heavenly Palace's secret realm. Every Dao Palace cultivator was nervous, but their fighting spirit was high. Everyone knew that the Dao Palace was going all out in this battle. If they won, the world would be at peace. If they lost, the Ziwei Dao Palace would cease to exist. This was a battle that everyone was betting everything on. On the other side of the battlefield, Pang Huanin and Elder Xiao were working together to restrain the Iron Corps commander. Although the Iron Corps commander was strong, Pang Huanin was not to be trifled with. With Elder Xiao's help, it was not a problem for her to restrain the Iron Corps commander. While fighting, Pang Huanin even had the time to observe the situation. Looking around, she did not see any cultivators from the other two secret realms. She could not help but feel a little disappointed. After she decided to join forces with Lu Yi and the others, she had already sent a message to the other two secret realms, informing them of the Ziwei Dao Palace's operation today. If the other two secret realms were interested, they would definitely lend a hand. But now, it seemed that she should not have any hope for them. These two secret realms were rotten to the core. However, just as she was thinking about this, she suddenly saw some figures of cultivators flying over from afar. That's... Pang Huanin was stunned. She thought that she had wrongly blamed the other two secret realms, but after careful observation, she realized that the cultivators who were still in the distance and were rushing over after hearing the commotion were not from the other two secret realms. They were cultivators from the stronghold. Teams with at least a few people and at most a dozen or 20 people were flying in from all directions. When she first saw them, there were not many people, but after a while, more and more figures came into view. As they got closer, the teams gradually converged, like streams converging into a river. The river continued to grow, and then turned into a huge force that could not be ignored. When the Dao Palace informed the other two secret realms of the operation today, they also revealed some information to some human strongholds. However, not many of them received the news from the Dao Palace cultivators. But at this moment, many cultivators from the other strongholds were rushing in from all directions. Obviously, the news had been passed between the strongholds. They were all waiting here in advance, and when they saw the Dao Palace's attack, they hurriedly showed up to help. There should be more cultivators from other strongholds on the way. Because of the lack of time, the cultivators from faraway strongholds could not make it here in time. Pang Huanin could not help but smile. She suddenly felt that the Dao Palace's persistence and everything they had done for so many years was meaningful. In this world, although the other two secret realms were rotten, there were still more people who were worth saving. Palace Master! Elder Shao shouted, his voice filled with excitement. Originally, the Dao Palace's strength was not enough to fight against the undead race. After all, there were only so many cultivators in the Dao Palace. Even if all of them were mobilized, what could they do? With the 3 soaring dragon boats as a defensive line, the Dao Palace cultivators could hold on for a while, but after a long time, they would not be able to hold on. But now that they had so many reinforcements, things were much more promising. Okay. Pang Huanin nodded and collected her thoughts. She looked at her opponent, and the murderous intent in her eyes almost materialized. She said coldly, "Kill." The battle was extremely intense from the beginning. The soaring dragon boats let out earth-shattering roars without pause. All the Dao Palace cultivators adhered to their original plan and did not take the initiative to attack. Instead, they stood their ground and did their best to divert the attention of the undead race. The undead race constantly attacked and were crushed to pieces. From afar, it looked like a rain of corpses was falling from the sky. More and more corpses and rotting flesh piled up on the ground, and a nauseating smell filled the air. But even with such heavy casualties, the undead race did not show any signs of weakness or retreat. They continued to charge at the Dao Palace's defensive line without fear of death. At one point, they were so close that they almost broke through the defensive line. Fortunately, many cultivators from other strongholds came to help, and the situation was stabilized. Chapter 827. While the Dao Palace's forces attracted the attention of a large number of corpse race clansmen, several streams of light quickly swept through the air from another direction. The one in the lead was fiery red, like a meteor falling from the sky. It was the 9 States team that had hurried over. At this moment, looking up, the flames of war were raging in the distance. In their field of vision, the unpredictable corpse race clansmen surged like a surging tide. Both the sky and the ground were filled with corpse race clansmen. There were several times when the Dao Palace's battle formation was almost drowned. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but feel their hearts tighten. They didn't hide their figures when they came here because there was no need to. This time, they were going to force their way into the secret realm of the Heavenly Temple. Such a huge movement was naturally quickly noticed by the corpse race. Immediately, some corpse race clansmen came to intercept the group and collided in an instant. Yang Yuan's giant armored figure immediately passed Lu Yi and rushed to the front. The two of them roared as their spiritual power surged. Their vitality was abundant, and they looked like 2 small burning suns. Facing the many corpse race clansmen coming to intercept them, the two of them showed no fear and brazenly charged into the crowd of corpse race clansmen. They were like tigers in a flock of sheep, sweeping everything in their path. Following closely behind them were Lu Yi and Feng Ruli. Saber light and spear light flashed as they reaped the corpse race clansmen. Lu Qing also used powerful spells to accurately kill the fish that slipped through the net. Mu Qingyun moved back and forth on her flying sword. Wherever her flying sword passed, not even a blade of grass remained. Lan Zi, who was at the back, seemed to have nothing to do. However, her cold eyes were constantly sizing up the situation around her, ready to strike at any time. Ing Wuji had disappeared. Apart from Lu Yi, who had powerful perception, no one knew where he was hiding. However, every time he appeared, a corpse race clansman would be unlucky. Although they belonged to different camps, and although this was the first time they worked together, they cooperated as if they had practiced countless times. Everyone exerted their strength in their own positions. The power of the 8 of them as one was far greater than the power of the 8 of them combined. Wherever the team passed, no matter how many corpse race clansmen they encountered or how strong they were, they couldn't stop them at all. At this time, everyone couldn't help but feel like a fish in water. In this kind of situation, even if a true lake-tier elite had come alone, the effect that they could bring to bear would be extremely limited. However, a group of Cloud River tier cultivators, working together with the others, would be able to reap considerable rewards without using too much power. The 9 prefectures team quickly approached the mysterious realm's entrance of the mysterious realm. In the distance, many Dao Palace cultivators in the battle matrix saw this clearly and were shocked. Only by personally experiencing this place would one know how powerful and difficult the Corpse Clan was to deal with. It was hard to imagine that there was actually someone in this world who could easily break through the Corpse Clan's defensive line with just a few people and directly enter the Corpse Clan's hinterland. Such a shocking scene boosted the confidence of the Dao Palace cultivators in this battle, and they pushed their strength even more fiercely. Many of the stronghold's cultivators came from all directions to provide support. Without their help, the Ziwei Dao Palace alone would not be able to hold on for long. However, with the help of the stronghold's cultivators, even if they could not defeat the corpse race, they would be able to hold on for a little longer. What the Dao Palace needed to do was to delay and restrain the corpse race. The commotion near the entrance of the mysterious realm alarmed the 3 corpse commanders. Originally, after Iron Corpse Commander Zhou Yun, the other 2 corpse commanders appeared one after another to put pressure on the Dao Palace. At this moment, when Copper Corpse Commander, who was hiding in the huge horde of corpse race, looked back and saw the 9 prefectures team's insufferably arrogant Zhang Rong, he was immediately enraged. The yellow clouds rolled, and Copper Corpse Commander immediately left the original battlefield and rushed toward the entrance. No matter what those humans wanted to do in the mysterious realm, he couldn't let them succeed. As one of the 3 corpse commanders under the Golden Corpse King, Copper Corpse Commander was a type of corpse race that could control zombies. With a huge horde of zombies under his command, he naturally wouldn't take these few humans seriously. When Pang Huanin, who had already retreated into the defensive formation, saw this, she wanted to stop them, but she was powerless to do so. She and Old Man Shao were more than enough to keep a single Iron Corpse commander busy, but they were no longer able to move about as freely as they had in the beginning in such a chaotic battlefield. All the cultivators from the Daoist Palace and Stronghold remained where they were, relying on the 3 soaring dragon ships as a barrier. Once they left the range of the barrier, even she would face the risk of dying at any time. As Copper Corpse Commander rushed over, the yellow clouds in the sky rolled, carrying even more corpses with them. By the time he arrived before the entrance, the number of zombies had already become extremely terrifying. There were even many zombies hiding among them, moving together. From afar, their colossal size formed an extremely stark contrast with the 9 prefectures team. For a moment, it seemed like the 9 prefectures team was like an ant trying to shake a tree. However, even with a situation like that, the 9 prefectures team had no intention of avoiding them. Yang Yuan and Giant Armor, who charged at the very front, seemed to be oblivious to the danger ahead, leading everyone into the horde of zombies. It was like a ferocious beast had opened its mouth, swallowing the 9 prefectures team whole. Yellow clouds filled the air, and only violent spiritual power fluctuations and colorful lights flickered, as if there were bolts of lightning swimming in the yellow clouds. There was no trace of anyone from the 9 prefectures team. Pang Huanin, who saw this from afar, felt her heart leap into her throat. However, after only 10 breaths, her eyes widened, because the rolling yellow clouds were showing signs of collapsing. This undoubtedly meant that Copper Corpse Commander, who was controlling the zombies, had been severely injured, and even his own zombies were somewhat unable to control them. How did they accurately find Copper Corpse Commander among the tens of thousands of zombies? The difficulty of dealing with rotten corpses did not lie in themselves, but in the fact that they were covered by the zombies. Ordinary cultivators could not find them at all. If cultivators from the Peerless Continent encountered rotten corpses and zombies outside, they would die without a doubt if they could not escape. They would then be turned into a part of the zombie horde. As such, Pang Huanin found it very difficult to understand how Lu Yi and the others had severely injured Copper Corp's commander. As soon as this thought appeared in her mind, the yellow clouds over there completely collapsed. Corpses fell from the sky uncontrollably, and they were the zombies under Copper Corp's commander's command. The figures of the 9 prefectures team were instantly imprinted in her eyes. All of them were intact, and there were no traces of life and death battles at all. A figure escaped from the collapsing yellow clouds in a panic like a stray dog. It was Copper Corp's commander's true body. At this moment, his eyes were trembling violently, and it was obvious that he had suffered a great shock. As a type of rotten corpse, if he did not rely on the zombies to cover his true body might not be stronger than some zombies. At this moment, he could feel a cold, killing intent locking onto him, so he ran away without looking back. You think you can run away? When a cold snort was heard, a clear sword cry sounded, and a sharp sword light cut through the void like lightning and swept past Copper Corp's commander's figure. Copper Corp's commander immediately froze in midair. The sword light turned around and landed not far from Lu Yi, revealing Mu Qingyun's figure. In the air, Copper Corp's commander's body suddenly split apart, and his smelly corpse blood sprayed through the air. Copper Corp's commander, one of the 3 corpse commanders, attempted to stop the 9 prefectures team all by himself, but he was slain on the spot in just 10 seconds. Witnessing this from afar, the cultivators of the Taoist palace and the stronghold were all roused. They cried out together, and their voices shook the clouds. The Silver Corp's commander and Iron Corp's commander who were entangled here were both shocked. As 3 corpse commanders as well, they obviously knew just how powerful Copper Corp's commander was. Even if the 2 of them faced off against Copper Corp's commander, they would not necessarily end up well. However, such a powerful corpse clan member had actually been slain in just 10 seconds. Ever since the corpse clan appeared on the Peerless Continent, something so absurd had never happened in the past 1,000 years. For a moment, the 2 corpse commanders felt fear that they had not felt in a very long time. They really could not understand just who had come over there, and how could they possess such terrifying ability. You can't even withstand a single blow. Ha, all of you can't even withstand a single blow. Feng Ruli laughed aloud. His spear swung like a dragon as he fought madly. Ever since he arrived on the Peerless Continent, he had not had a proper battle. To someone who liked fighting like him, this was undoubtedly very torturous. However, everything that he had experienced right now was basically a sumptuous banquet to him. In particular, when he worked together with the others, he completely cast aside all of his worries. Feng Ruli could vaguely sense that he could unleash 120% of his strength. If he felt this, how could the others not feel the same? The 8 of them were like a single entity. They had a clear division of labor, but they were also connected as they slaughtered their way forward. Basically, every single one of them was filled with great confidence. Even if there were any gods or demons up ahead, they could still cut them down if they worked together. Lu Qing sighed inside. Only after possessing something would one understand the pity of losing something. Formation like this could not last forever. At this moment, in this place, they could cast aside their differences and work together, but if they met again in the 9 provinces in the future, they might become mortal enemies again. He could not help but feel rather sorrowful inside, but there was nothing he could do about it. The entrance to the secret realm was already close at hand. Even though there was still an endless stream of corpses coming to intercept them, Bronze Corp's commander could only stop the 9 provinces team for 10 breaths of time. How could these scattered corpses stop them? After a few breaths of time, Yang Yuan and Giant Armor were the first to rush to the entrance. The 2 of them looked at each other and without a word, plunged into the door without hesitation. Opening a path to find danger had always been the job of body cultivators with thick skin and flesh. The 2 of them were naturally unwilling to pass on their responsibility. Following closely behind them, Lu Yi and the others also entered the door one after another. Pang Huanin heaved a long sigh of relief when she saw this scene from afar. The most difficult time had passed. This was because Lu Yi had previously told her that as long as they could kill their way into the secret realm of the Heavenly Palace, things would basically be settled. After that, the Dao Palace would not be able to interfere. Therefore, from her standpoint, when the 9 provinces team killed their way into the secret realm of the Heavenly Palace, the Dao Palace would be able to advance and retreat freely. However, she did not give the order to retreat immediately, because if they continued to stay here, they would still be able to share the burden of Lu Yi and the others. Before the dust settled, if the Dao Palace did not retreat, she, Pang Huanin, would not retreat either. This was a matter of the Wushuang continent. If the visitors from the 9 provinces could risk their lives for this, there was no reason why the native cultivators of the Wushuang continent could not do the same. Chapter 8:28. But very soon, Pang Huanin's expression changed. When the 9 prefectures group charged into the mysterious realm's entrance of the mysterious realm of the mysterious realm, many of the corpse race changed their direction and rushed towards the entrance. Even the Silver Corps commanders and Iron Corps commanders that had been fighting with them all this time abandoned them and retreated in a hurry, rushing towards the door. The corpses had no idea what the 9 provinces team was up to, but Lu Yi had forced his way into the secret realm first, and now the 9 provinces team was charging in with such fanfare. They were clearly up to something. As such, they could not let them get away no matter what. Even with the Copper Corps commander's death, the Silver Corps commanders and Iron Corps commanders dared not just sit by and watch. Stop them! Pang Huanin ordered in a hurry and tried to stop the 2 corps commanders, but it was completely useless. The formations on the soaring dragon boats hummed, and a huge beam of light shot towards the 2 corps commanders, who easily dodged it. With the return of the 2 corps commanders and the corpses, the pressure on the Dao Palace's side plummeted. However, Pang Huanin's face was sunken. She would rather face more pressure on the Dao Palace than allow the 9 provinces team to run into trouble. However, at this moment, the Dao Palace and the cultivators of the stronghold could only rely on the defensive line formed by the 3 soaring dragon boats as a barrier. All they could do was stand their ground or retreat. Taking the initiative to attack was nothing but wishful thinking. Looking in the direction of the door, Pang Huanin secretly prayed that everything would go smoothly. She spat out a word coldly. Kill! There was not much they could do now. Killing more corpses was the best help they could provide to the 9 provinces team. Inside the secret realm, the team of 8 charged in foolishly and felt even greater pressure than before. This was because the number of corpses here was much greater than outside. Moreover, the corpses here had clearly received news from outside and were rushing out. When the 9 provinces team charged in, they were clashing head-on with the huge horde of corpses. Like an indestructible sharp blade, the team of 8 forcibly plowed a bloody path through the tide of zombies wherever they went. An extremely malicious and ferocious aura was awakening somewhere in the mystic realm. Even though it was far away, the sharp aura was like an ant that bit onto everyone's body. No matter who it was at this moment, their skin couldn't help but tighten as their expressions turned solemn. Previously, when the 8 of them worked together, they had easily killed the Bronze Corps commander. This made everyone feel that the corpse race's experts were only SOSO. Their greatest advantage was their large numbers. Only now did he know that the corpse clan also had incredible experts. That sharp aura that was almost solid clearly belonged to the Golden Corpse King's corpse fiend that was hiding here. Judging from the aura coming from afar, everyone knew that this was an existence comparable to an overlord-level demon general. As for exactly how strong an expert was, that would only be known after exchanging blows. The corpse fiend only revealed his aura and did not show himself. He had killed a large number of corpse race clansmen, so there was no need for him to take the risk. The 9 provinces team rampaged all the way until they reached the top of a spiritual mountain. Yang Yuan and Giant Armor, who were charging at the front, suddenly stopped. They'd charged all the way here, and the clothes on their bodies had already been torn off, causing their robust flesh to be revealed. Their auras seethed while their vital blood roiled. Yang Yuan shouted, "Lu Ye, can we do it here?" The placement of the Tianji pillars was not random, but was rather particular. Lu Yi speculated that the cultivators of the 9 provinces needed to use the Tianji pillars to teleport. However, in such a large environment like the 9 provinces, no one usually paid attention to this matter, so no one noticed. However, this was the Wuxia continent. The 9 provinces Tianji needed to use the 4 Tianji pillars to locate the location. The Wuxia continent was located in H, and when 2 had to be placed in a place with dense spiritual energy. The 4 great secret realms were the best choices. And in the secret realms, they had to choose a place where the earth veins intersected, which was a place with relatively dense spiritual energy. In the Silver Snake Valley, the 5-element city was the center of the entire secret realm. It was where the 5 great clans were stationed, so it was naturally where the earth veins intersected. In Mount Meru, the location that Ingwuji was looking for was the same. In this turbid heaven temple, the most central place where the earth veins intersected was definitely the place where the Golden Corpse King's corpse fiend was hibernating. However, that place was not easy to barge into, so they could only settle for the next best thing. This location was not bad. Hold on. Lu Yi instructed, and immediately took out the last sealed Tianji pillar from his storage space. The long saber in his hand danced, and he dug a hole, and threw the Tianji pillar into it. When he made his move, countless corpses swarmed over from all directions. In the sky and on the ground, there was an endless number of corpses. Everyone in the 9 provinces team instantly felt a mountain-like pressure. Previously, when they were roaming and ambushing, the pressure they had to endure was actually not that great, because they were constantly moving. In the process of moving, no matter how many corpses they had to face at the same time, it was still within their range of tolerance, and they could easily deal with them. However, now that they had stopped and were entrenched in one place, the pressure they had to endure was completely different from before. Fortunately, everyone was an elite among elites carefully selected by the 9 provinces Tianji. Among the 9 provinces Cloud River tier, no one had to settle for the next best thing. This location was not bad. Hold on. Lu Yi instructed, and immediately took out the last sealed Tianji pillar from his storage space. The long saber in his hand danced, and he dug a hole, and threw the Tianji pillar into it. When he made his move, countless corpses swarmed over from all directions. In the sky and on the ground, there was an endless number of corpses. Everyone in the 9 provinces team instantly felt a mountain-like pressure. Previously, when everyone was roaming around, the pressure that Lo Ma's felt was actually not very scary. In the process of social movement, they had to face the corpse race at the same time. No matter how many corpses there were, it was still within their range of tolerance, and they could easily deal with them. However, now that they had stopped and were entrenched in one place, the pressure they had to endure was completely different from before. Fortunately, everyone was an elite among elites carefully selected by the 9 provinces Tianji. Among the 9 provinces Cloud River tier, there were no more fluctuations. In this incomparably chaotic place, if Lu Yi had not been paying attention to the movements of the Tianji pillar, he would have almost not noticed it. His heart trembled, and he immediately knew that his previous speculation was not wrong. The Tianji pillar indeed needed to be placed in the 4 great mystery realms. Now, with such a reaction, it was obvious that they needed some time. Another strange rhythm rose and fell from the location of the Tianji pillar. No one noticed it, but this rhythm penetrated the void, rushed out of the Tianji temple's mystery realm, and radiated toward the entire Wuxia continent, and even imprinted into the void. At this moment, on a spiritual peak of Mount Meru in Silver Snake Valley's 5-element city, the place where Lu Yi and the others of the Ziwei Dao Palace had previously resided, there were all concealed strange rhythms rising and falling. The formless rhythms spread out in all directions like ripples, radiating toward the 4 poles of heaven and earth. It was as if 4 hearts were recovering, incubating something, and resonating with each other. We've defended. Lu Yi held his saber in hand, turned around, and charged out to consolidate the defensive line. When the voice fell, everyone's expression turned cold. Even if they were all dragons and phoenixes among men, it would not be easy for them to defend this small piece of land under such circumstances. Now, those who rushed over were only ordinary corpses. The Golden Corpse King's aura had been biting on them, and this was the most fatal threat. No one knew when he would strike, and once the Golden Corpse King struck, it would definitely be a strike from Lei Jian. In the beginning, the defensive perimeter they had formed was still several dozen meters away, but as time went on, everyone retreated step by step. The corpses of the corpses before them piled up into mountains, and the stench of decay filled the surroundings. In such a fierce battle, not to mention Feng Ruli and Wuji, even Lu Yi couldn't hold on for long. Yang Yuan and Giant Armor's tower-like bodies were constantly being bombarded, their blood and qi surging. The Silver Corps commanders and Iron Corps commanders had already charged over. They knew how powerful Lu Yi and the others were, so the two corps commanders did not tangle with them at all. They both hid among the corpses. Amidst the corpses, they launched an attack before fleeing, giving the 9 provinces team a place to take care of. Both of them brought great trouble. The rhythms from underground continued at a steady pace, completely different from the life-threatening danger the 9 provinces team faced right now. It formed an extremely stark contrast. Finally, at a certain moment, the rhythms suddenly became clear, and with the appearance of the rhythms, there were clearly signs of spiritual qi flowing backwards, buried in the location of the Tianji pillar. It was as if an invisible vortex had appeared, suddenly devouring the dense spiritual qi of the world in the secret realm. At the same time, Silver Snake Valley's 5-element city. Under Chu Ruoyu's lead, the powerhouses of the 5 great clans hurried to the small courtyard where Lu Yi had stayed in the past. The abnormality here left them at a loss. No one knew what had happened. They only knew that there had been strange disturbances here since the beginning, and it was even more exaggerated now. It was as if all the spiritual qi of the world in the entire secret realm was gathering here before being devoured. Sensing the disappearance of the tremendous spiritual qi, the expressions of the cultivators of the 5 great clans all changed. When they thought of the outsider who had once brought them great trouble, an ominous feeling welled up in everyone's hearts. After all, this was far too much of a coincidence. This small courtyard was where the outsider had stayed back then. There was no reason why the abnormality would not occur elsewhere, but here. Although they had sent the outsider away, he had definitely left behind something here. Do you know what it is? Chu Ruoyu asked sternly. Such an obvious situation meant that the outsider had left behind something extraordinary. Chapter 829. What was that? The cultivators of the 5 great clans stared blankly at the small pillar-shaped object. No one had seen this thing before, but in their perception, it seemed to have become a black hole, crazily devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the secret realm. At this moment, the entire secret realm seemed to have been swept up by a spiritual energy storm, with a great momentum. If left alone, the spiritual qi of the entire mystic realm would be devoured. When that happened, the mystic realm would collapse. What a ruthless method! Chu Ruoyu's eyes twitched violently. He could not understand what kind of hatred the outsider had for the Silver Snake Valley to leave behind such a vicious method. Quickly dig it out! Someone shouted angrily. Immediately, someone stepped forward and wanted to pull the divine pillar out of the ground. He thought it would be an easy task, but even if the cultivator used all his strength, he could not move the divine pillar at all. Someone at the side could not believe it and stepped forward to help, but it was still the same. Not good, this object is already connected to the earth vein. It's hard to move it. Finally, a knowledgeable old cultivator saw the clue. It was such a small object. It did not make sense that several cultivators were unable to move it. There was only one possibility for such a situation. This object was already closely connected to the earth vein. If they wanted to move it, it was equivalent to moving the earth vein of the Silver Snake Valley. This was not something that could be done by human strength. It's over! A shocking thought appeared in everyone's mind. The cultivators at the scene all staggered and their faces turned pale. What kind of hatred? What kind of hatred? Chu Ruoyu's eyes were bloodshot. He could not understand how knowing he had offended that young man. How could he let the other party do such a thing? It was not only the cultivators of the Silver Snake Valley who were in despair. It was the same on Mount Meru's side. Lu Zhiguan had just died not long ago. The large and small clans of Mount Meru were busy fighting for the position of the Mountain Master. Before the dust had settled, a change had occurred. When the cultivators of the 5 great clans of the Silver Snake Valley realized the extraordinary nature of the divine pillar and its possible consequences, the cultivators of Mount Meru also realized it. As for the Ziwei Dao Palace, they did not have much of a reaction. For this battle, the Ziwei Daoist Palace had put in all of its effort. Any cultivator with a bit of cultivation had, since they had already gone to war. Those who stayed behind were either old and sick soldiers or ordinary people who had never cultivated before. Therefore, although the spirit peak where Lu Yi and the others lived before had a great momentum, it was still not enough. No one dared to rashly investigate. As the pillars of heavenly fate devoured the spiritual energy in the earth veins, the seals on the 4 great secret realms were broken. The small pillars of heavenly fate also expanded in the wind. Like 4 bamboo shoots breaking out of the ground, they suddenly grew bigger and stood between heaven and earth. This was definitely the tallest Tianji pillar that Lu Yi and the others had ever seen. The pillars of Tianji in the 9 prefectures all had the same size and size. They were only about the height of a person. The pillar of divine secrets that had broken out of the ground of the 4 great secret realms had already exceeded the height of a person. Furthermore, it was still growing madly as it devoured a large amount of spiritual qi of heaven and earth. On the surface of the heavenly fate pillar, complicated patterns appeared and disappeared. They were like streams of flowing light swimming on the surface. The exhaustion of the earth veins led to a series of uncontrollable consequences. The thing that worried the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru the most happened. The secret realm that had been drifting in the void and had no fixed residence was suddenly exposed to the world. The door was wide open. When this news spread to the ears of the experts of the Silver Snake Valley and Mount Meru, the group of people felt as if the sky had collapsed. After so many years, how could they not be worried about Wushuang? The corpse plague of the Lu clan and Duo Zhen Yi relied on nothing more than the uniqueness of the secret realm. As long as they hid in the secret realm, the corpse clan would not be able to do anything to them. Even when they opened the door on normal days, they were careful to avoid being discovered by the corpse clan. The uniqueness of the secret realm was their greatest protection. But now, as the secret realm passed, this layer of protection that had been maintained for thousands of years suddenly disappeared. Their Han 50,000 continent, along with the entire secret realm, was exposed to the Wushuang continent. To them, it was undoubtedly a fatal blow. In the 4 great secret realms, the 4 pillars of heaven's secrets grew to a height of nearly 10 feet before stopping. In a short period of time, the earth veins in the 4 great secret realms were almost completely devoured, and the heaven and earth spirit energy in the secret realm was so thin that it was almost undetectable. In the secret realm of the heavenly temple, on the spirit peak where the pillars of heaven were placed, the 8 members of the 9 regions team were fighting a bloody battle. The situation was dangerous. The mission of this trip had been completed. The pillars of heaven's secrets had been placed down, and it was impossible to shake it again. Even if the Golden Corpse King attacked with all his might, he did not have the ability to do so. When he suddenly turned his head, he saw an unremarkable zombie in the group of corpses throwing a punch at him. It was clearly a simple punch, but it felt like the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. A golden light flashed in the zombie's eyes. Lu Yi raised his saber and slashed at him. The right arm holding the saber suddenly bulged, and in an instant, 3 saber slashes fell. 1 flash. Consecutive slashes. In order to deal with this kind of sudden crisis, this kind of simple fighting technique was the most effective. Although the first style of the Tyrant Blade was powerful, at this moment, he didn't have time to gather spirit power to activate it. The Mountain Pan Saber, which had been reinforced with the sharpness spirit inscriptions, was no longer as sharp and invincible as before. It only left a shallow wound on the corpse race's body. Through the wound, one could see the bones glowing with a golden light. The other party's punch landed on Lu Ye's chest. Lu Yi felt his heart stop at this moment. He stopped moving and his body flew out like a ragged sack, slamming heavily into the frightened shadow behind him. Wu Ji was on top of him, causing him to cry out in surprise. That corpse race clansman had succeeded in one move and was about to take advantage of the situation to kill them all. Don't even think about it. At this moment, Lan Zi, who was on the side, finally pulled out her hands. She waved her two sabers and almost turned into a spinning top. Saber lights poured out like a storm, constantly slashing out. Mu Qingyun also arrived with her flying sword, and the sword light was sharp. Clanging sounds were heard, and Lan Zi's beautiful eyes changed color. At this moment, she felt that she was not slashing at a corpse clan, but an extremely sturdy treasure. The feeling from the slash in her hand made her understand that this opponent's body was unbelievably sturdy. A withered hand pierced through the violent blade edge and sharp sword light. The most primitive and ancient fists struck out together. Lan Zi's body stumbled backward. Mu Qingyun's one with the sword was broken, and her aura was shaken. Golden Corpse King. It was not until this moment that Lu Qing's voice was heard. He recognized the identity of this seemingly inconspicuous corpse clan. It was rumored that Shirsha was originally an ordinary disciple of Turbid Heaven Temple, but after the heavenly change on the Wushuang continent, he encountered something unknown and turned into a corpse clan. He was the first corpse clan in the entire Wushuang continent, and now all the corpse clans in this world were developed with him as the source. For 1,000 years, the Ziwei Dao Palace had always regarded killing the Golden Corpse King as their most important mission, and they had taken the initiative to attack many times. However, they had never succeeded. Those Dao Palace cultivators who died in battle had never even seen the Golden Corpse King's face. It had to be said that it was extremely sad. Previously, when the Golden Corpse King's aura recovered and filled the air, everyone knew that he was definitely an overlord-level existence. At this moment, when they fought, they realized that even among overlord-level existences, the Golden Corpse King was definitely at the top. The first corpse clan on the Wushuang continent, after 1,000 years of seclusion and cultivation, had allowed his strength to grow to an unbelievable level. Lu Yi was caught off guard and was repelled and injured. Lan Zi and Mu Qingyun, who had helped, were also helpless. At this moment, the ordinary-looking Golden Corpse King was like a torrent, tearing a gap in the formation of the 9 states team. His mouth contained a terrifying power that could destroy everything. Chapter 830. All of you must die. The Golden Corpse King's voice was as ear-piercing as metal scraping against each other. He stretched out a hand and grabbed at Mu Qingyun, whose aura was fluctuating after being pushed back by him. His sharp fingernails glowed with a cold luster. No one would doubt that these fingernails alone were comparable to the top artifacts of the 9 provinces cultivation world. He did not know what the humans in front of him had done, nor did he know the mysteries of the Pillar of Heaven's secrets, but he could clearly sense the changes in the earth veins of the Turbid Heaven Temple's secret realm. As one of the 4 great temples, the Turbid Heaven Temple had been the largest corpse-nurturing ground for the corpse race since 1,000 years ago. It had also nurtured countless outstanding clansmen for the corpse race. The Turbid Heaven Temple's secret realm had contributed greatly to the massive corpse race army under Shirsha's command. However, this place, which was like a holy land to the corpse race, had withered its spirit veins and thin heaven and earth spirit chi. How could Shirsha tolerate this? He had seen the strength of the 9 provinces team and knew how powerful they were. Thus, he hid among the corpse race and waited for an opportunity to attack. Even if he did not succeed, he would still be able to break through the 9 provinces team's formation. As long as he killed 1 or 2 of them, then he had the confidence to take down all of them. The corpse race army that was like a tide was not to be trifled with. No matter how strong these humans were, they could forget about causing any waves. Facing this attack, Mu Qingyun had nowhere to retreat. He hurriedly activated his flying sword. Sword lights sliced through the void and swept toward Shirsha. Shirsha's body trembled violently and left sword wounds on his body. However, Shirsha's body was extremely tough. Although the sword wounds were fine, they could not harm his core. Sword cultivators were known for their killing, let alone a top sword cultivator like Mu Qingyun. However, even his methods could not deal any real damage to Shirsha. It was clear how tough Shirsha's body was. The aura of death approached. At this critical moment, a tower-like figure charged out and stood between Mu Qingyun and Shirsha. Yang Yuan. His burly figure was like an indestructible barrier. At this critical moment, he gave people a great sense of security. His blood energy and spirit energy surged and intertwined. He held a large artifact shield in front of him. He had brazenly blocked Wuxia's fatal strike. At this moment, Mu Qingyun finally heaved a sigh of relief. At that instant just now, he'd practically thought he was dead for sure. However, as soon as they relaxed, a strange sound rang out. Mu Qingyun and Yang Yuan's expressions changed at the same time. Crack crack crack. The Dharma artifact shield in front of Yang Yuan let out a hard sound. The corpse fiend's sharp fingers had actually pierced 5 holes in the shield. Its nails, which glowed with a cold light, pierced through the shield's barrier and entered Yang Yuan's field of vision. Impossible! Yang Yuan's pupils dilated, his eyes filled with disbelief. There was no time for him to be shocked. The luster on the shield quickly dimmed, and it lost most of its spirituality. The zombie's large hand went straight through the shield, and its sharp nails pierced into Yang Yuan's chest. As a body cultivator, Yang Yuan's tempered body was strong enough to withstand the spells of a spell cultivator of the same level. However, the body that he was so proud of was now as fragile as paper. He felt a stabbing pain coming from his chest. He was afraid that in the next moment, his heart would be pierced by the zombie's sharp nails and he would die on the spot. A figure that seemed to be wrapped in flames suddenly shot out from beside him, and as it spun in the air, the blade light, as bright as a star, slashed directly at the zombie's neck. Before the full power of this saber strike could be unleashed, the zombie's golden eyes narrowed slightly. He clearly felt a threat from this saber strike. This blade might not take his life, but if he was hit by it, he would not have a good time. So when the blade slashed out, the zombie retreated without any hesitation, instantly disappearing into the huge crowd of zombies. His presence was retracted, and he disappeared without a trace. The figure that appeared in the air landed in front of Yang Yuan. It was Lu Yi. She had used the momentum to kill a group of zombies in front of her. Yang Yuan staggered slightly, and his entire body was cold. If Lu Yi had made a move just now, he would definitely be dead now. Only 5 breaths of time had passed since Wuxia was in danger, and the 9 states team had rushed to help each other, until the zombie retreated. However, in these 5 breaths of time, several people present were in danger of dying. There were obvious traces of blood flowing from the corner of Lu Ye's mouth. The zombie's punch was not easy to take. Yang Yuan's presence also became unstable. Although the zombie did not take his life, it had directly injured him, and at the same time, injected the original corpse poison into his body. Fortunately, before they came, everyone had received a special elixir from Wuxia. Wuxia herself could cure the original corpse poison, but the elixir she refined was not so powerful. Its effect was only to suppress the outbreak of the original corpse poison, giving the cultivator who had been poisoned more time to seek treatment. Feeling the changes in his body, Yang Yuan hurriedly took out the elixir and swallowed it. The formation reassembled, and the 8 people supported each other. However, they were no longer as smooth as before. It was not because of anything else, but because when the gap was opened in the formation of the team, everyone was injured. Moreover, after such a long and intense battle, everyone's strength was affected. Lu Yi. As the only magic cultivator in the team, Lu Qing stood in the safest position. However, among the 8 of them, he had killed the most corpses. In this aspect, not even Lu Yi could compare. The destructive power of such a powerful large-scale spell technique was simply too terrifying in this environment. "I'm afraid we're going to die here. What do you think?" He had no intention of blaming Lu Yi. Before they set out, everyone had known that this would be dangerous, but they had not expected the situation to be so bad. Following Lu Yi was his personal choice, and Lu Qing had no intention of holding Lu Yi responsible for the various consequences that would arise. They were all dragons and phoenixes among this generation of 9 provinces cultivators, so they still had this bit of responsibility and awareness. However, in the face of death, he could not help but find something to say. "I don't dare to think about anything." Lu Yi continuously swung his saber, the fiery red saber light flickering. With each slash, a large number of corpses fell to the ground. The corpses in front of them piled up like a mountain, but there was still an endless stream of corpses swarming over. How unlucky to have to die together with you. Lu Qing let out a long sigh. Great. Feng Ruli, on the other hand, seemed to have gone mad. If it wasn't for giant armor pulling him back, this person would probably have charged out. Lu Ye, I've actually tolerated you for a long time. The two scimitars in Ingwuji's hands danced as he killed the corpse race while shouting and venting. It was as if he wouldn't have the chance to speak if he didn't. You think you can order others around just because you are strong? Who do you think you are? If not for the fact that I can't beat you, I would have beaten you until you kneel on the ground and call me grandpa. Lu Qing laughed. Strength is respected among cultivators. Ingwuji, you're taking things too hard. I haven't been alone with him before, but if you were alone with him for a while, you would know how hateful this guy is. He orders others to do all the dirty work while he hides in the back to enjoy his life. I, Ingwuji, am also a dragon among men, but this guy doesn't take others seriously. How hateful, how hateful. Lu Qing leisurely said, Be careful, he'll cut you right now. Ingwuji straightened his neck. What's there to be afraid of? It's just a matter of dying sooner or later. You've got guts. Lu Qing praised Ingwuji. Ingwuji sighed again. Lu Ye, although your character isn't that good, you've saved me a few times. I'm afraid I won't be able to repay you for saving my life. I'll repay you in my next life when I have the chance. Be an ox or a horse? Lu Qing teased. In his dreams. Maybe I'll be the one to save his life in the next life. Ingwuji clearly had some wild thoughts about his next life. If you have the energy to talk, why don't you kill more corpses? Lan Zi couldn't listen anymore. Although the group was still fighting bravely and resisting with difficulty, what was with this strange atmosphere? At this moment, a sudden change occurred. Originally, when the corpses were killed, they were killed. But at this moment, when the group killed the corpses, specks of light floated out of the corpses like fireflies, and then fell on the back of the group's hands like chasing the stars and the moon. The situation on Lu Qing's side was the most obvious. A large number of specks of light floated over from all directions, imprinted on the back of his hand and disappeared. Next was Lu Yi. The 8 people couldn't help but be stunned. Then, everyone reacted and hurriedly immersed their minds to sense their own battlefield imprints. In the next moment, the 8 people were overjoyed. The battlefield imprints that had been unresponsive since they came to the Wuxia continent finally recovered at this moment. The reason why there was no response before was obviously because this place was beyond the range of the 9 regions Tianji. The Wuxia continent was not part of the 9 regions, but belonged to another domain that had nothing to do with the 9 regions, so the battlefield imprints were useless. At this moment, the battlefield imprints reacted, which undoubtedly meant one thing. The 9 regions Tianji had opened a connection with the Wuxia continent. This made everyone realize one thing. Lu Ye's previous guess was correct. After the 4 sealed Tianji pillars were placed in the 4 great mystery realms, they could absorb the power of the ley lines and spiritual qi of heaven and earth in the mystery realms, allowing the 9 regions to accurately pinpoint the location of the Wuxia continent and then establish the necessary connection. So the battlefield imprints reacted, and so when the group killed the corpses, specks of light would float into the imprints. Battle merit. This is battle merit. Ingwuji was excited because he discovered that those specks of light didn't bring battle merit, but more valuable battle merit. In this short moment, he had already obtained hundreds of battle merit. Even for people like them, it was not easy to obtain battle merit. After all, the level of the Cloud River tier was too low and could only obtain battle merit in some special occasions. So when Ingwuji discovered that he could obtain battle merit by killing the corpses, one could imagine the excitement in his heart. Then he was annoyed. Before the battlefield imprints reacted, he had killed a large number of corpses, but did not obtain any battle merit. Chapter 8:31. 9 States, Cloud River Battlefield, West 35 Heavens Secret City. As the only Heaven's Secret city within a radius of 30,000 kilometers, the Heaven's Secret Commerce Alliance was naturally bustling with activity. Every day, there was an endless stream of 9 regions cultivators coming and going in this city. The spacious streets were full of people, and the stream of people was jostling one another. The Heaven's Secret Commerce Alliance's business was booming, and they made a lot of money every day. It had been more than a month since the Cloud River battle ended, and those who were supposed to break through to the true lake realm had already done so. Now, it was time for the new batch of Cloud River realm cultivators to compete for supremacy. Those who had some cultivation were working hard to consolidate their foundation and prepare for the next Cloud River battle. Those who had just entered the Cloud River battlefield were working hard to improve themselves and catch up with their predecessors. In the cultivation environment of the 9 states, the Spirit Stream battlefield and the Cloud River battlefield were 2 treasured lands that nurtured cultivators. Generation after generation of young talents were like the waves of the river, and the waves behind pushed the waves before them. In front of the Commerce Alliance's Heaven's Secret pillars, there were 4 long queues in 4 directions. As the cultivators waited, those who were familiar with them whispered to each other. Although it had been more than a month since the Cloud River battle, it was still a topic of conversation for many cultivators. Especially Lu Yi, who had obtained the first place. As an 8th Order Cloud River realm cultivator, he had created an unprecedented miracle and was destined to be remembered by those who came after him. There were many who were familiar with him, but there were also many who were unfamiliar with him. His past was naturally dug up by those who were interested. Looking at his path of cultivation, it was simply a history of blood and tears as he constantly fought against the 10,000 Demons Ridge. Wherever he went, there would be endless storms and extremely lively. The sect exterminating Yi and the Spirit Stream 3 disasters also spread like wildfire. Speaking of which, there hasn't been any news of Lu Yi recently, someone suddenly said. Why, do you miss him? No, it's just that such a person will eventually rise up and leave his name in history, so it's natural to pay more attention to him. That guy obtained the first place in the Cloud River battle and obtained a total of 20 golden spirit lots. I'm afraid he's cultivating in seclusion or has already reached the true lake realm. That's a pity. Without Lu Yi, the Cloud River battlefield will be much less lively in the future. Wouldn't it be better for such a disaster to leave as soon as possible? Once he leaves the Cloud River battlefield, there will naturally be even more powerful experts to deal with him. But then again, the speed at which his cultivation increases is truly fast, truly making others envious. It's just that he had a lot of opportunities. If we also had that many opportunities, the speed of our cultivation would definitely not be slower than his. That's easy to say, but opportunities aren't something that can be encountered so easily. It's precisely because it's so rare that it's like, what's going on? The lively conversation came to an abrupt end. All the cultivators who were waiting in line for the transaction looked at the Tianji pillar in astonishment. The cultivators nearby couldn't help but take a few steps back. This was because the heavenly fate pillar, which had never had any abnormalities before, suddenly shone brightly. As the group of cultivators looked at it in bewilderment, the heavenly fate pillar suddenly shone with complicated patterns. The patterns flowed with light and then dissipated, gathering in the void in front of the heavenly fate pillar. A moment later, an oval-shaped, 3-meter-tall light gate that could accommodate 4 people walking side by side appeared in everyone's vision. The entire place was silent. Everyone's gaze was focused on the gate on the first floor of the Heavenly Fate Commerce Alliance. This matter even alarmed the expert of the Commerce Alliance who was overseeing this place. A skinny middle-aged man with an expressionless face flashed over and landed in front of the light gate. He looked at it intently. The steward of the Commerce Alliance who had seen the light gate with his own eyes immediately came forward to report the situation. The middle-aged man listened as he looked at the light gate thoughtfully. There were many questions in his heart. Why would a gate appear in front of the Commerce Alliance's heavenly fate pillar? Where did this gate lead to? Such a bizarre thing had never happened before. I'll go take a look. The middle-aged man was confident in his cultivation. He instructed the steward beside him and walked toward the gate. However, in the next instant, it was as if he had crashed into an invisible wall. He couldn't help but retreat. He understood that this gate could only allow cultivators of the Cloud River tier to pass through. Although he appeared to be a Cloud River tier cultivator, he was actually a true Lake tier cultivator. Naturally, he couldn't pass through. "Senior, what's going on with this gate?" someone asked. The middle-aged man obviously received some information at this moment and was checking his battlefield imprint. Soon he raised his eyebrows. This was because the information indicated that this gate wasn't the only one that had appeared in the Commerce Alliance. Many other Commerce Alliances had appeared in them. As for whether this situation spread across the entire Cloud River battlefield, it wasn't confirmed yet. However, it wasn't a bad thing for the gate to appear in such a place. After pondering for a while, the middle-aged man said, "Maybe it's an opportunity bestowed by the heavens." As soon as he finished speaking, many cultivators became excited. Actually, when the gate appeared, some people had already thought of this point. They were tempted, but they didn't dare to act rashly. Now that even the Commerce Alliance people said so, it must be true. Normally, such a gate would lead to a mystic realm. Mystic realms were places that cultivators loved to train because there was a high chance of obtaining battle merits there. Just now, some people were still saying that this was a rare opportunity. Who would have thought that a gate to a mystic realm would appear in front of them in the blink of an eye? Of course, some impatient and bold people couldn't help but walk out of the crowd and walk toward the gate. This was a rare opportunity, so they naturally had to grasp it. The middle-aged man naturally wouldn't stop them, and there was no need to stop them. Although he didn't know where the gate led to or what dangers lay behind the gate, the path of cultivation had always been filled with thorns. It was never a smooth journey. He only said, "If there is any danger behind the gate, the Commerce Alliance won't be responsible. Everyone, please behave yourselves." Who would care about him? After the first cultivator stepped into the gate and disappeared, a large number of cultivators swarmed toward the gate from all directions. It was as if they were afraid that if they were late, the benefits would be taken away by others. This kind of situation was happening at almost the same time in the various merchant alliances of the Cloudy River battlefield. Those cultivators who originally came to the merchant alliances to buy things were all rushing towards the doors in front of the Pillars of Heaven's secrets. Wuxia Continent, Muddy Heaven Temple's mystic realm. Battle merits. This is battle merits. Ingwu Ji's excited voice echoed because he found that after killing the Corpse Clan, he could obtain precious battle merits. The others also found this and their hearts trembled. Lu Qing poured a basin of cold water on them. "Even if you have the life to take it, you have to have the life to spend it." The enthusiasm and excitement in everyone's hearts was doused. In the current situation, everyone was almost in a desperate situation. Not to mention the injuries on everyone's body for the time being, among the 8 people, 4 had already been poisoned by the corpse origin poison. Only Lu Yi, Lan Zi, Mu Qingyun, and Zhu Jia were not affected by the corpse origin poison for the time being. If the other 4 couldn't quickly get out of here and find Hua Ci for treatment, they would be turned into a member of the Corpse Clan sooner or later. The more they urged their spirit power, the weaker the suppressive effect of the spirit pill, and the sooner the corpse origin poison would break out. Once the 4 of them were turned into Corpse Clan members, the remaining 4 wouldn't have a good ending. In the end, they were at the end of the road. The Golden Corpse King Corpse Fiend had clearly seen this as well, so after being forced back by Lu Yi earlier, it did not appear again. Even the Silver Corpse Commanders and Iron Corpse Commanders did not come to cause trouble anymore. Only a vast number of Corpse Clansmen surged over like the tide. Almost as the 8 people of the 9 states team were at their wits' end and could only resign themselves to fate, an unusual spirit power fluctuation suddenly appeared not far away. Everyone was shocked, and they hurriedly sized him up. On the 30-meter-tall divine pillar beside them, flowing light flashed incessantly again. Even the divine pillar itself was shaking violently. What's going on? Everyone was bewildered. Asterisk crash. Asterisk as if a star had shattered, rays of light radiated from the divine pillar in all directions, landing on various locations in the mysterious realm of Round Heaven Temple. When the rays of light landed, they didn't dissipate. Instead, they constantly twisted and stretched, turning into an oval-shaped portal in an extremely short time. Each ray of light turned into a portal. Thousands of rays of light turned into thousands of portals. In the sky and on the ground, there were even many flowing lights that passed through the mysterious realm of the sacred palace and landed near the battlefield where the cultivators of the Ziwei Dao Palace and the stronghold were. In the mysterious realm of Round Heaven Temple, the closest portal was less than 300 meters away from Lu Yi and the others. From that portal, an aura that everyone was extremely familiar with leaked out. This is... Lu Qing looked at the portal and sensed the familiar aura. Suddenly, as if realizing something, he turned his head to look at Lu Yi, whose expression remained calm even in the face of such a desperate situation. 9 states? Lu Yi focused on killing the enemy and ignored him. Every ray of light turned into a portal. Thousands of rays of light turned into thousands of portals. In the sky and on the ground, there were even many flowing lights that passed through the mysterious realm of the sacred palace and the stronghold, landing near the battlefield where the cultivators of the Ziwei Dao Palace and the stronghold were. In the mysterious realm of Round Heaven Temple, the closest portal was less than 300 meters away from Lu Yi and the others. From that portal, an aura that everyone was incomparably familiar with leaked out. This is... Lu Qing looked at the portal and sensed the familiar aura. Suddenly, as if realizing something, he turned his head to look at Lu Yi, whose expression remained calm even in the face of such a desperate situation. 9 states? Lu Yi focused on killing the enemy and ignored him. Lu Qing couldn't help but ask, Lu Yi, is that 9 states? Did you think of it long ago? Lu Yi said indifferently, since Tianji can establish a connection with us and the Tianji pillars have been set up, the cultivators of 9 states can naturally teleport over. Lu Qing froze for a moment and then laughed. So that's how it is. Lu Yi, you really hit it well. So this is our backup plan and reliance. No wonder you're so calm in such a desperate situation. I really thought you weren't afraid of death. It's not that I hit it well, it's that you're too stupid. Okay, I'm stupid. Lu Qing was not angry at all. Instead, his expression was carefree. There was nothing more delightful than surviving a desperate situation. As for Lu Yi's verbal attack, it wasn't like he would lose anything, so why should he care so much? We're going to have reinforcements? Feng Ruli asked in surprise. Although he was not as smart as Lu Qing, if he still couldn't figure out the situation after listening to the conversation between the two, then he was really stupid. With the Tianji pillars here and so many portals connected to 9 states, it was obvious that a large number of reinforcements were about to cross the border from 9 states. Chapter 8:32. By then, they would no longer be fighting alone. Instead, they would have the support of the entire 9 provinces. Now that the gates had appeared, would reinforcements still be far away? The appearance of the portals made the Corpse clan extremely vigilant. Many scattered Corpse clan members near the portals wanted to charge in and investigate, but even if they passed through the portals, it was as if they had passed through an invisible layer. There was no reaction. Just as the Corpse clan members were bewildered, the space enveloped by the gates suddenly distorted. Soon afterwards, a figure abruptly appeared. Behind the first figure was a second, then a third. In the blink of an eye, endless streams of cultivators appeared one after another. It was the same for every single gate. Yuan Lai came from a 5th grade sect in the Mist Province. His talent was not bad, having reached the 6th order Cloud River realm now. However, at this point in time, such a cultivation level was actually not very competitive. In the Cloud River battle that had already ended, he did not obtain many benefits. Therefore, he could only set his sights on the next Cloud River battle. The next time would be 5 years later. 5 years was enough for him to reach the peak of the Cloud River realm and accumulate a sufficiently powerful foundation. However, to achieve that, he needed sufficient cultivation resources. The monthly stipends given by the sect were not enough for cultivation. This was also a method that the large sects of the 9 provinces used to nurture their disciples. Even 1st grade sects would never give their disciples enough cultivation resources. This was because only when they lacked cultivation resources could their disciples train themselves. If they really did have sufficient cultivation resources, they would only nurture a bunch of useless people who only had cultivation but could not fight. The various fortuitous encounters on the Cloud River battlefield and the battles with cultivators from opposing factions were all methods and paths for cultivators to train themselves. In particular, the former was something that could only be chanced upon by luck. As a result, when a gate that seemed to lead to a certain secret realm appeared within the Heavenly Secret Commerce Alliance, Yuan Lai stepped in with the crowd. The process of teleportation took about 5 hours. He even felt discomfort when he was teleported, like the world was spinning around him. At this moment, a piece of information exploded in his heart. He had entered and exited several mystic realms before, so he naturally knew that when entering a mystic realm with a realm as its background, the heavenly secrets would sometimes bestow some special identities to the cultivators to facilitate their actions. At the same time, the heavenly secrets would also allow the cultivators to roughly understand the basic situation within the mystic realm. Therefore, when this information exploded in his mind, Yuan Lai did not panic at all and hurriedly checked. But the result surprised him because he wasn't given any special information about the secret realm. The message was simple and clear. Exterminate the corpse race. What was the corpse race? He had never heard of it before. Before Yuan Xiang could understand what was going on, the field of vision was closed. The long teleportation in middle school number 1 had ended. Experienced cultivators knew to use their spirit tools and spirit power to protect themselves at this time because no one knew what kind of dangers they would encounter when they stepped into the unknown. Yuan Lai was no exception. He hurriedly urged his spirit power and summoned his spirit artifact at the same time. Roars and shouts rang in his ears. As far as the eye could see, many of the 9 provinces' cultivators who came here before him were already fighting with a group of unknown enemies. The air was filled with the stench of decay. Yuan Lai was no stranger to this smell. It was the stench of rotting corpses after a long time of death. Looking at the enemies in front of him again, many of them seemed to be rotting corpses with rotten flesh hanging from their bodies. There were also some who seemed to be air-dried corpses with skinny bodies. This was the corpse race? They lived up to their name. Ugh! Not far away, a delicate-looking female cultivator bent over there. Her expression was difficult, and her face was pale. It was obvious that she had never experienced such a battle before, nor had she seen such disgusting enemies. A skinny corpse race member flew over and grabbed at the female cultivator. Yuan Lai's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He leaped out and stabbed at the corpse race member with his sword. However, the other party did not dodge. Instead, he allowed the sword to stab at his chest and clawed at the female cultivator's head. With a crack, like a watermelon exploding, Yuan Lai's eyelids twitched. Many of the cultivators from the 9 regions had suffered a great loss in the battle between the Hui and the Corpse clan. This was because, in the ordinary sense, the vital points of the Corpse clan were nothing to the Corpse clan. They were originally from the Undead clan, and they were also people who came back from the dead. The only way to kill the Corpse clan was to cut off their heads or crush their bones. There were many casualties among the 9 provinces cultivators who arrived here first, but more 9 provinces cultivators came one after another. In the face of a common enemy like the Corpse race, no one cared about the opposition between the Grand Heaven Alliance and the Myriad Devil Ridge. Everyone displayed their skills and abilities. The experienced and capable cultivators shouted and led the latecomers to strengthen the defense line beside the door. They fought steadily. After the initial chaos, the 9 provinces cultivators built their own barriers in front of the door. As more and more latecomers joined in, the barriers became stronger and stronger. Gradually, they had the ability to fight back. There were very few secret realms where large-scale wars broke out. In the past, the secret realms in the 9 regions were all space-time silhouettes of broken realms. The cultivators had a stage of adaptation when they entered, but the Wushuang continent, however, the Peerless continent, was an exception. Therefore, the cultivators from the 9 provinces suffered some losses because they were caught off guard. However, no one flinched because almost everyone noticed one thing at the first moment. Killing the corpse race could earn them military merits. The 9 provinces' cultivators' desire for military merits was unimaginable. Therefore, although many of the pioneers had died in battle and the battle was extremely fierce, the enthusiasm of the 9 provinces' cultivators gradually rose. Like a spark ignited in the wilderness, the cultivators of 9 regions vented their spiritual power and radiated the flames in all directions. Outside the secret realm of the heavenly sacred temple, on the battlefield where the Dao Palace's cultivators and the Talk House's cultivators were, the 3 soaring dragon boats were almost scrapped. Relying on this San Monso, the defensive line formed by the soaring dragon boat was also on the verge of collapsing under the attack of the corpse race. Pang Huanin had already ordered a retreat for Lu Yi and the others who had entered the secret realm of the heavenly sacred temple. However, Lu Yi and the others had not appeared since they entered the secret realm of the heavenly sacred temple. How could Pang Huanin leave them alone? When Lu Yi and the others were in danger in the heavenly sacred temple, the situation here was not optimistic either. Until the cultivators of the 9 provinces suddenly arrived. In midair, Pang Huanin, Elder Shao, and the others stared at the unfamiliar figures who came out of the doors with their mouths agape. They were extremely shocked. Originally, they were at an absolute disadvantage. Countless cultivators from the Dao Palace and the stronghold had died in battle. However, at this moment, with the help of these sudden reinforcements, the situation seemed to have reversed in a short time. Fellow Daoist Hua, they are. Pang Huanin suddenly sensed something and turned to look at Hua Ci, who was heavily guarded. As the only medical cultivator who could cure the corpse race's origin poison, Hua Ci's protection was naturally very tight. Since the battle began, the Dao Palace had a group of people who were specially assigned to protect her. At this moment, Hua Ci was detoxifying a cultivator who had been poisoned by the corpse race's origin poison. She placed her hand on the person's chest for a moment, and the corpse race's origin poison was completely removed. No one noticed that while detoxifying the poison, Hua Ci's cultivation base was increasing at an imperceptible speed. Her inheritance had a strange origin. It allowed her to cultivate with poison, and the effect of cultivation was better than relying on spirit qi. Corpse race's origin poison was also poison. To Hua Ci, the current Wushuang continent was actually more suitable for her cultivation than the 5 poisons pool. Moreover, she could even earn a certain amount of battle merits during the process of detoxifying the poison. This could be considered a pleasant surprise. However, unlike ordinary cultivators, she did not have much desire for battle merits. When she heard Pang Huanin's question, Hua Ci smiled and said, "They're all from the 9 states. Lu Yi should have succeeded. Let's wait for his good news." Even if she had guessed it, when Hua Ci confirmed it, Pang Huanin could not help but feel dazed. Elder Shao, who was standing beside her, muttered, "So, the 9 states really exist." Pang Huanin had told him about the 9 states before, and that Lu Yi and the others were from the 9 states. Since it was Pang Huanin who told him, he chose to believe her. Besides, Lu Yi and the others did not seem like people who could be born in the current Wushuang continent. However, he had not seen it with his own eyes. Until this moment, unfamiliar cultivators were ceaselessly charging out from the numerous doors. Their strengths were mixed, but their numbers were unimaginable. Each of them was dressed in bright clothes, and the quality of the spirit tools in their hands was extraordinary. They seemed to have cultivated different sections. Therefore, even if they were of different origins, they could still fight on the chaotic battlefield. On the battlefield, they could quickly cooperate and form a tight battle formation. The cultivators from the 9 states seemed to be a group of people who were born for war. After clearing away the distracting thoughts in her mind, Pang Huanin's expression became resolute. She said in a heroic voice, "Fellow Taoists from the Dao Palace and various strongholds, the zombie plague has been plaguing the Wushuang continent for a long time. Today is the day to clean up the zombie plague. Now that the guests from the 9 states are here to help us, as native Wushuang cultivators, are you willing to fall behind? Kill! Kill! Kill!" Pang Huanin slowly raised the long sword in her hand and pointed at the battlefield in front of her. This is our homeland. This is the Wushuang continent, and we are Wushuang cultivators. Others are risking their lives to protect our homeland. Are we just going to be spectators? Kill! 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 Pang Huanin's lips curled up. Her impassioned voice calmed down at this moment, but she still sounded resolute. Kill! As soon as she finished speaking, she was the first to charge out. Pang Huanin had been on the defensive all this while. Now, it was finally time to counterattack. Behind her, the cultivators from both the Dao Palace and the stronghold turned into streaks of colorful light and dove into the vast battlefield like a sea of stars. Before the doors, the 9 states cultivators also noticed the situation on Pang Huanin's side. Some were puzzled and some were puzzled. Where did this group of seemingly extraordinary forces come from? However, they were soon relieved. No matter where they came from, they were still humans. The 9 states cultivators only had one mission for this trip, and that was to eliminate the zombie clan. Chapter 8:33. In the secret realm of the Heavenly Palace, the place where the 8-man team of the 9 prefectures was located. It had long turned into a purgatory. The broken bodies and rotten flesh of the corpse clan piled up into mountains, and the flowing blood converged into a river. The biggest crisis had passed. With the arrival of reinforcements from the 9 prefectures, the pressure on this side was quickly reduced. At this moment, 8 figures stood on the mountain of corpses, and no corpse clan dared to disturb them. Looking around, they saw many doors blossoming everywhere. Many cultivators of the 9 prefectures charged out of the doors and formed battle formations to fight against the corpse clan. The situation here was also noticed by many cultivators of the 9 prefectures. After recognizing the identities of Lu Yi and the others, and seeing their terrifying battle record, they were all amazed and impressed. I can't take it anymore. Feng Ruli's excitement made Guochun feel sore all over. Moreover, he had been poisoned by the original corpse poison. Because of the corpse origin poison, his face was covered with an abnormal layer of yellow. I have to hurry and find that fellow Taoist Hua. Otherwise, I'll become a corpse clan member. As he said this, he jumped up from the mountain of corpses with his long spear and rushed toward the secret realm of the Heavenly Palace. Let's go, let's go. Lu Qing said and followed Feng Ruli. Ing Wuji and Yang Yuan also left in a hurry. Even Mu Qingyun nodded slightly at Lu Yi and soared into the sky. In the previous battle, 4 people of the 8-man team were poisoned by the corpse origin poison, and Mu Qingyun was not spared. Although the spirit pill refined by Hua Ci temporarily suppressed the poison, it was only a temporary suppression. During the battle, the spiritual energy surged, and the effect of the spirit pill was gradually consumed. At this moment, everyone felt that something was wrong. They knew that if they did not hurry to get rid of the corpse origin poison, there might be some extremely bad consequences. If they were really turned into corpse clan members, they would be in big trouble. On Mount P, only Lu Yi, Lan Zi, and Giant Armor survived. Lan Zi looked at Lu Yi and Giant Armor with a bewildered expression. He had a lot of questions, but no one answered. The main reason was that these 2 people were too strange. One of them was covered in wounds but showed no signs of being poisoned. Logically speaking, when fighting with the corpse clan, one should not be careless about any injuries, because one of the wounds might be injected with the corpse origin poison. As for the other one, after such a long battle, there wasn't even a single wound on his naked upper body. How strong must one's physique be to be able to remain unscathed in such a high-intensity chaotic battle? Is this guy's physical body at the level of a magic tool? It should be known that as a body cultivator, Yang Yuan also had quite a few wounds on his body. Aside from the wounds inflicted by the Golden Corpse King's corpse fiend, he had also sustained some additional injuries in the subsequent battle. The reason why she was able to escape unscathed was because she was wearing a protective soft armor. Otherwise, she would definitely be one of the victims of the origin corpse poison. What 2 freaks! Then she saw an even stranger scene. Lu Yi casually took out a handful of spirit pills and stuffed them into her mouth. Her cheeks puffed up high as she mumbled to Giant Armor beside her, "Recover." "Oh," Giant Armor replied, then closed its eyes. Munch munch munch. Lu Yi glanced at Lan Zi as he chewed on the spirit pill. He saw that the corners of her eyes were twitching violently. She had never dared to imagine that someone would consume so many spirit pills in one go. Those were spirit pills, not candy. After eating so many spirit pills, isn't he afraid that the pill poison will accumulate in a short period of time and his spiritual power will become impure? No cultivator, no matter their cultivation base, would consume spirit pills like that. Is this guy crazy? Gulp. After the spirit pills were swallowed, Lan Zi heard a buzzing sound coming from Lu Ye's stomach. It sounded as if lightning was swimming in it, or as if a millstone was grinding. He even dared to activate the gluttonous meal. Lan Zi was completely speechless. Naturally, she knew about the useless gluttonous meal. Hence, when she heard the sound coming from Lu Ye's stomach, she knew what Lu Yi was doing. He's really not afraid of death. Not only did he consume so many spirit pills in one go, he even activated the gluttonous meal to refine the spirit pill's medicinal effects. However, it had to be said that the effects were obvious. Because Lan Zi could clearly sense that Lu Ye's aura, which was originally low due to the long battle, was rapidly recovering. It was rapidly recovering. This undoubtedly meant that his spiritual energy was rapidly recovering. But, is this necessary? Such a method of recovery was practically a joke with his own future. Suddenly, there was another surge of spiritual power beside her. Lan Zi looked at Giant Armor again and saw that Giant Armor, who had just closed his eyes, had already opened his eyes. His spiritual power was surging to the point that it was about to spill out. "It's done!" Giant Armor buzzed. "What's done?" Lan Zi suddenly felt like she was in a dream. Lu Yi could quickly recover his spiritual power because he used some special method. She saw it clearly. What was the situation on Giant Armor's side? From the time he closed his eyes to the time he opened them, it had only been 10 breaths. The many losses from the previous battle had been completely replenished. Has it been replenished? She did not see any signs of Giant Armor consuming spirit pills or absorbing spirit stone's power. "Let's go!" Lu Yi called out and stepped in a direction. He did not choose to fly, but every step he took covered a distance of more than 10 feet. Giant Armor remained silent and followed closely behind. It did not even ask what Lu Yi was doing. Wait! Only then did Lan Zi come back to her senses. She quickly followed and walked side by side with Lu Yi. She tilted her head and said, "Together." She had already sensed what Lu Yi was going to do. Although this trip was bound to be extremely risky, if this matter was successful, they would definitely obtain a large amount of battle merits. She did not want to miss such an opportunity. Lu Yi did not chase her away. Lan Zi had the strength. Although it should be enough to join forces with Giant Armor, one more person was always one more force. Wherever they passed, the Corpse clan would constantly charge out to disturb them. However, the few of them had already charged through such a huge storm before, so why would they care about the thorns in front of them? The 3 of them advanced forward in a row. Wherever they passed, specks of fluorescent light would constantly escape from the bodies of the killed Corpse clan members and float into the back of their hands. However, very soon Lan Zi sensed something. She tilted her head and asked, "Lu Ye, do you not know where he is?" Because she discovered that Lu Ye's actions did not have a clear goal. It seemed like he was just searching in the process of wandering and hunting. Lu Yi beheaded a Corpse clan member with a slash and casually responded, "Do you know?" He indeed did not know where the target was, because the target this time was really too inconspicuous. In the current environment where the Corpse clan was everywhere, it was impossible to find him at all unless he took the initiative to expose himself. However, in the current situation, how could he easily expose himself? Thus, Lu Yi could only slowly search as he killed the Corpse clan members. There was no need to see with his own eyes. Previously, when the target suddenly appeared to ambush him and then injured Yang Yuan, Lu Yi had already memorized his aura. As long as the target appeared within his range of perception, it would be impossible for him to escape. I don't know either. Lan Zi's voice weakened slightly. Then stop talking nonsense. The three of them continued to wander and hunt, helping many cultivators from the 9 states to resolve their difficulties. After recognizing Lu Yi and Lan Zi's identities, many cultivators from the 9 states were all excited. It turned out that the first 2 in the Cloud River battle for supremacy were here, and they were even working together. In that case, this trip to exterminate the Corpse clan was clearly not difficult. Everywhere they passed, there were not only the broken bodies of the Corpse clan members on the ground, but also the corpses of many cultivators from the 9 states. It could be seen how intense the battle previously was. Suddenly, a shrill cry was heard. Lu Ye's figure immediately swayed, and he shot toward the source of the sound. In a short moment, he had arrived at the battlefield there. Since the battle had started, the liveliness in front of the various gates had already disappeared. The Corpse clan had also sensed that the visitors from the 9 states were not to be trifled with, and they all fled in all directions. Many cultivators from the 9 states had also left the gates, and formed teams with their friends and family to wander and hunt. At this moment, there was a small team of more than a dozen people that had met with a calamity. They were currently surrounded by a group of Corpse clan members. If that was all, it would be fine, but the key was that there was an extremely powerful existence in this group of Corpse clan members. The Iron Corpse Commander. In a true sense, not only was the Golden Corpse King a corpse demon and overlord-level existence, the 3 great generals under its command were all overlord-level existences. An overlord-level existence was definitely not something that ordinary Cloud River tier cultivators could contend against. However, relatively speaking, the corpse demon's strength was stronger than the 3 great generals. Previously, the Copper Corpse commander had died sullenly, mainly because he had not imagined that the strength of the 8 people from the 9 states team would be so strong. Even with their cooperation, he had been killed on the spot in a mere 10 breaths' time. The advantage of grinding down the huge group of Corpse clan members was completely useless under Lu Ye's powerful perception. Faced with the 8 people from the 9 states team, the Iron Corpse commander had not been able to do much, but faced with this kind of ordinary group of more than a dozen people, the Iron Corpse commander had been killed in a single move. The strongest person in the remaining team had been killed in a single move by him. The rest of the team was also in imminent danger. It was at this critical moment that the Corpse clan that had surrounded them suddenly became chaotic. Immediately afterward, a fiery red figure charged out like a cleaving wave, and a swift and fierce saber slashed directly at the Iron Corpse commander. Faced with this sudden attack, the Iron Corpse commander was not the slightest bit concerned. He merely raised an arm to block the saber. At this moment, his iron-colored skin suddenly tightened, and it was as if it had really turned into fine iron. However, in the next instant, the expression on his stiff face changed. Chapter 8:34. Clang, 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 clang. A series of clangs rang out like raindrops hitting a banana leaf. The Iron Corpse commander's body shook violently. Wounds appeared on his body, from shallow to deep. His flesh and blood were torn apart. The Iron Corpse commander had just taken flight and moved 100 feet to the side. However, he was still unable to shake off the storm of attacks. He opened his mouth and roared. Corpse chi rippled around him. He threw a punch that pierced through the saber veil and headed straight for Lan Zi. Clang, another clang rang out. Lan Zi crossed her sabers before her and blocked the attack with precision. However, she was also forced back by a violent force. At this moment, the Iron Corpse commander was greatly alarmed. A strong sense of danger surged in his heart like boiling water. He turned his head and looked to the side. He saw Lu Yi, who had launched a sneak attack and forced him back with a single saber, standing not far away. He held a saber in one hand, and his sharp gaze pierced into the Iron Corpse commander's body like a sword. He poured all his power into the saber in his hand, causing the arcane artifact-level Panshan saber to blaze as if it was on fire. The Iron Corpse commander could tell with a single glance that Lu Yi was accumulating power. The next slash he was about to unleash would definitely be earth-shattering. The Iron Corps commander did not panic. No matter how powerful the slash was, it had to hit him first. At this moment, Lu Yi was accumulating power. He had already forced Lan Zi back, and the remaining humans were nothing to be afraid of. Hence, he leaped into the air, intending to leave this troublesome place. His body had only leaped 10 meters into the air when a large hand, like an iron hoop, suddenly reached out from nowhere and grabbed his ankle. Under the Iron Corps commander's shocked gaze, the large hand suddenly exerted force and directly pulled him down from the air. In the next instant, the Iron Corps commander felt his vision turn upside down. He lost control of his body and crashed heavily onto the ground. It was the owner of the large hand that had grabbed him. He was being beaten up like a rag sack. Boom! A crater instantly appeared on the ground. Powerful vibrations spread in all directions, causing the eyelids of the group of 9 states cultivators who had just been attacked to twitch. Boom, boom, boom. The large armored arm swung left and right as it smashed against the ground with loud bangs. The Iron Corps commander flew into a rage. With his powerful physical body, such an encounter would naturally not cause him any serious injuries, but he had never been treated like this before. When he was electrocuted, his body was like a boneless viper, clinging to the giant armor. With a twist of his body, he rode on giant armor's neck. Die! He roared angrily and grabbed giant armor's neck with one hand, thrusting it toward giant armor's head. Everyone who saw this scene had a change of expression. Ding! The Iron Corps commander's eyes narrowed slightly as disbelief filled his eyes. This was because this sure-kill attack of his actually didn't cause any damage to his opponent. He could clearly see that the moment his attack landed, the spirit energy above his opponent's head suddenly condensed and manifested. It looked like a tortoise shell that had been shrunk countless times. It was sturdy enough to block his attack. Before he could be surprised, an unprecedented sense of danger suddenly descended upon him, enveloping him. He raised his head abruptly. Lu Ye's figure was already lunging over in his field of vision. After a short build-up, his aura had risen to a level that made the Iron Corps commander's expression change. The saber that he had yet to unleash caused the Iron Corps commander to feel fear that he hadn't felt in a long time. With a smack, Giant Armor extended his other hand and grabbed the Iron Corps commander's hand that was on his neck. With one arm and one leg bound, and unable to escape, the Iron Corps commander finally panicked. Lu Yi leapt up slightly. He slashed out with his saber, which was covered in flames. He brushed past Giant Armor and the Iron Corps commander who was riding him. He slid for more than 100 feet before stabilizing himself. The flames retracted, and the mountain pan saber returned to its original plain appearance. The pitch-black blade had no luster at all. The Iron Corps commander who was riding on Giant Armor and restrained by him stared ahead blankly. His mouth moved as if he wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Giant Armor shook his body and shook him off. Before the Iron Corps commander could land on the ground, his head had already been separated from his body. A thick stench of corpse blood spurted out. Lan Zi slowly walked over from the side. She looked at Lu Ye's back and then at the Iron Corps commander on the ground with an indescribable look on her face. She knew that Lu Ye's saber strike would be extremely powerful, but she didn't expect it to be this powerful. Such terrifying killing power was something she couldn't hope to achieve. Of course, Lu Yi could also tell that the saber was a magic artifact. Moreover, he seemed to have activated the power of his spirit inscriptions when he attacked with hot text. The saber was a combination of all kinds of power to produce such a powerful strike. The battlefield mark on the back of her hand suddenly warmed up. Lan Zi immersed her divine sense into it and was overjoyed. That was because Lu Yi saw a hand. This was obviously a benefit from killing the Iron Corps commander. This wasn't just a merit from killing the enemy. No matter how strong the Iron Corps commander was, he was only equivalent to a Cloud River Realm Master. The merit from killing him was no different from killing a Cloud River Realm 9th Order cultivator. However, merit wasn't something that could be obtained simply by killing the enemy. By contributing in such a battle, one could also obtain merit. This was probably equivalent to a reward bestowed by the heavens. It was a reward for their efforts. No matter what, the Iron Corpse commander was one of the few peak masters of the corpse race. Killing him would be of great significance to the cleansing of the corpse calamity. Just like back in the sealed world of the myriad beasts, when she joined forces with Lu Yi and the others to kill Niu Meng, she had also obtained quite a lot of merit after that battle. This was also why she had sensed Lu Ye's intentions and insisted on following him. Who wouldn't be willing to do something that could benefit them? She had obtained quite a lot of merit, but Lu Yi should have obtained even more. That was because although the three of them had contributed in this battle, the one who had killed the Iron Corpse commander was Lu Yi, who had contributed the most. Such a powerful Iron Corpse commander had been killed by the three of them in less than 10 breaths. The cultivators of the 9 provinces were all dumbfounded. Only now did they truly feel the huge gap between them. The dozen or so of them were powerless against the Iron Corpse commander's attacks and could only sit and wait for death. However, Lu Yi and the others had eliminated them like the autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The first and second place of the Cloud River contest lived up to their names. With the Iron Corpse commander killed, the corpses in the surroundings could no longer cause any trouble. With everyone working together, they exterminated all the corpses in their field of vision very quickly. Lu Yi was focused on finding traces of the Golden Corpse King, so he did not linger around. After dealing with the trouble here, he quickly left. The three of them wandered around and obtained quite a lot of loot. However, the Golden Corpse King seemed to have evaporated into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. Lu Yi could not help but wonder if he had already escaped from the Sacred Hall of Turbidity. With the current situation, the corpses here could no longer cause any trouble. They would be purged by the enthusiastic cultivators of the 9 provinces sooner or later. Even the corpses scattered across the various corners of the unparalleled continent would become the targets of the cultivators of the 9 provinces in the future. After all, there were not many opportunities to obtain merit so directly and simply. To the cultivators of the 9 provinces, every single one of these horrifyingly shaped and smelly corpses was highly sought after. The Golden Corpse King was not stupid. Now that the situation was hopeless, it was very likely that he would not stay behind. He looked no different from an ordinary corpse clan member. If he wanted to hide among the corpses, probably no one would be able to discover him. He did see the corpse of the Silver Corpse commander. The battlefield where the corpse was located was extremely tragic. Although he did not see it with his own eyes, Lu Yi could still imagine the scene at that time. Many cultivators of the 9 provinces besieged the Silver Corpse commander. The Silver Corpse commander killed in all directions, but in the end he was still no match for them and fell here. Just from the traces left behind on the battlefield, the 9 provinces had paid a great price to kill the Silver Corpse commander. Follow me, I think I know where the Golden Corpse King is. Just when Lu Yi was about to give up on finding traces of the Golden Corpse King, Lan Zi suddenly spoke. Lu Yi turned to look. Lan Zi said, "We thought too much before. We thought that the Golden Corpse King would hide among the corpses and attack the cultivators of the 9 provinces, or that he had already escaped from here. But in fact he did not leave at all. He did not even attack the cultivators of the 9 provinces." "Where is he?" Lu Yi asked. Lan Zi's gaze moved up and looked at the highest spiritual peak in the distance. Lu Yi frowned. "He is the first corpse clan member of the unparalleled continent, and he is also the Golden Corpse King. He has the pride and dignity of a king. Now that the corpse clan is gone, how can he be a stray dog? There is a great hall over there, and he is in the great hall." As she spoke, Lan Zi waved her fair hand. "I've found out through different channels that many cultivators of the 9 provinces who trespassed have been killed. No one dares to go over there for the time being. If you can't find him yourself, can't you ask someone? Or, do you have no friends?" When she said the last sentence, the corners of Lan Zi's mouth curled up. She had a mocking expression on her face, as if someone like Lu Yi should be alone for the rest of his life. Lu Yi raised the Panshan saber in his hand. "Let's go, I'll lead the way." Lan Zi instantly straightened her face and led the way. No one knew the name of Spirit Peak anymore. This place had been occupied by the corpse race for 1,000 years. Everything that belonged to the turbid heaven temple, there was no trace of it at all. However, this should be the highest spiritual peak in the heavenly earth temple, and it was also an extremely important spiritual peak. There was a great hall on the spiritual peak. The entire heavenly earth secret realm was filled with the figures of the 9 provinces cultivators and the corpse clan fighting everywhere. However, only this spiritual peak was empty. There was not a single corpse clan member to be seen. Lu Yi couldn't help but believe Lan Zi's words. This abnormal situation in itself explained a lot of problems. After a while, the 3 figures floated in the wind and landed in front of the great hall of the spiritual peak. Lu Ye's gaze sharpened because he had already sensed the aura that he wanted to remember. The aura of the Golden Corpse King, a corpse demon. In the great hall, there was a faint smell of fresh blood. It was the blood of the 9 provinces cultivators who had accidentally trespassed and were killed. The powerful aura was so dense that it was not concealed at all. It was as if an evil dragon was entrenched in it. Even if he knew that it would attract dragon slayers, he did not hide it. He wanted to use an earth-shattering battle to announce his end. This was the dignity of a king. Chapter 8:35. Sensing the powerful aura in the hall, Lan Zi's expression was solemn. During the battle between the 8 from the 9 provinces, although the Golden Corpse King had only appeared briefly and injured Yang Yuan, no one knew exactly how powerful he was, because the situation was too chaotic back then. Only when she clearly sensed his aura now did Lan Zi know that this guy was more than just a little stronger than the 3 corpse commanders. Was this still within the realm of the Cloud River realm? Even if he was an overlord, it was still a little exaggerated. Moreover, if the Golden Corpse King was really as powerful as she sensed, then when the 8 of them were surrounded by the Corpse Clan, he should have been able to kill them all. He should have the ability to kill them all, so why didn't he do so? Instead, he did not appear again after being repelled by Lu Yi. Perhaps there was some unknown reason behind this? Just as Lan Zi was pondering, Lu Yi had already stepped forward and moved forward. Giant armor followed closely without a word. It looked like even if there was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames ahead, if Lu Yi went, it would follow without hesitation. Lan Zi could only brace herself and follow. The door of the hall opened like the mouth of a ferocious beast, swallowing the 3 figures. The light went from bright to dark. Lu Yi narrowed his eyes slightly and scanned the hall. As far as he could see, there were at least dozens of mutilated corpses scattered around. They were all the 9 provinces cultivators who had come this time. They had mistakenly thought that there was something good here and barged in, but they were killed by the Golden Corpse King. Many of the corpses had their eyes wide open before they died. The remaining light in their eyes was filled with shock. Clearly, they had felt great terror before they died. Right above the hall, the ordinary-looking corpse clan member sat on a chair. He supported his chin with one hand and looked down leisurely. He did not look like he was waiting for the dragon slayer, but an old friend he had not seen for a long time. Lu Yi looked up and met the corpse devil's gaze. The eyes that glowed with golden light clearly showed disappointment. The Golden Corpse King's voice that sounded like metal rubbing against metal rang out. "Only the 3 of you? Where are the others?" Although there were many cultivators from the 9 provinces, the only ones that really caught his attention was the initial group of 8 from the 9 provinces. He had been waiting for Lu Yi and the others. However, he did not expect that only 3 of them had come. The other 5 were nowhere to be seen. Naturally, this disappointed him. There was also a nameless fury surging in his chest. A mere 3 people? How dare they come here and cause trouble? 3 people is enough to kill you. The moment Lu Yi finished speaking, Giant Armor took a large step forward. His towering body carried an indescribable sense of oppression as he quickly pounced on the corpse fiend. His movements were not considered fast. At first glance, he even gave people a feeling of stupidity because of his burly body. However, in just 2 or 3 steps, he had already pounced in front of the corpse fiend. Lan Zi was shocked. He didn't expect the battle to be so straightforward. The 2 sides had only exchanged a few words and were about to start fighting. However, her reaction wasn't slow either. At the same time that giant armor moved, she charged out from the side. Her tall and slender figure turned into a streak of rainbow light, drifting erratically, instantly giving off an unfathomable feeling. "How dare you!" The Golden Corpse King roared and suddenly stood up. Even he didn't dare to sit upright in the face of the immense pressure from the giant armor. The two figures close to each other threw a punch at each other almost at the same time. In comparison, Giant Armor's punch was heavy and powerful, while the Golden Corpse King's punch had almost no momentum to speak of. No one doubted that the Golden Corpse King would probably end up with broken tendons and broken bones, or even directly explode from this punch. However, what shocked everyone was that the moment their fists collided, Giant Armor, who was 2 or 3 times bigger than the Golden Corpse King, was sent flying. In a contest of pure strength, Giant Armor, who was a body cultivator, was completely defeated. A circle of air waves visible to the naked eye suddenly surged out and spread out in all directions. At this moment, Lan Zi had already charged out from the side. As usual, a fierce storm of saber light enveloped the Golden Corpse King. Clanging sounds rang out. In that instant, who knew how many slashes she had made on the Golden Corpse King? However, what made Lan Zi pale was that her series of slashes only left shallow white marks on the Golden Corpse King's body. She couldn't hurt him at all. Although she was already mentally prepared and guessed that the Golden Corpse King's body was stronger than the Iron Corpse Commander's, it was still a little exaggerated to be this strong. When she attacked the Iron Corpse Commander earlier, she had at least injured him. In comparison, the Golden Corpse King and the Iron Corpse Commander were on 2 completely different levels. Faced with this storm of slashes, the Golden Corpse King extended his hand and grabbed. Lan Zi's spinning figure couldn't help but stop, because one of her sabers had been caught by the Golden Corpse King. Lan Zi's expression changed. In such a situation, she could either abandon her saber and retreat, or she would be dragged to the Golden Corpse King's side in the next instant. At that time, even if she was the second in Cloud River, she definitely wouldn't have a good ending. Under normal circumstances, abandoning her saber and retreating was the best choice, as well as the only choice. However, she didn't do that at this moment. Instead, she spun in the air because she saw Lu Ye's figure. Giant Armor had just been sent flying by the Golden Corpse King's punch, but Lu Ye used the cover of Giant Armor's figure to close in. His saber was sharp and piercing, stabbing towards the Golden Corpse King's eye socket. He saw the strength of the Golden Corpse King's physique and specifically targeted its weakness. No matter how strong the Golden Corpse King's physique was, its eyes were ultimately fragile. Faced with this saber, the Golden Corpse King suddenly leaned back, causing Lu Ye's saber to stab empty air. He took advantage of the momentum and slashed down heavily on the Golden Corpse King's face, immediately causing sparks to fly. At the same time, the Golden Corpse King, who was leaning back, had already kicked out. Lu Ye's hand formed a palm, and spiritual energy surged in his palm, turning into a defensive spiritual tattoo that was placed horizontally in front of his chest. Although he managed to block this attack, he was still sent flying by the violent force. On the other side, using the short gap created by Lu Yi, Lan Zi's figure spun, and her spiritual energy erupted. This caused the Golden Corpse King's large hand to involuntarily loosen its grip on her saber. Before Lan Zi could retreat, the Golden Corpse King had already taken advantage of the opportunity to smash a fist onto her saber. The violent force almost caused the saber in Lan Zi's hand to fly out. Her expression changed, and she hurriedly retreated to dissipate the force. When she raised her eyes to look at the Golden Corpse King again, her gaze was extremely grave. He was very strong, unimaginably strong. Her previous feeling was not wrong. She joined forces with Lu Yi and Giant Armor to launch a brazen attack. They were unable to do anything to the Golden Corpse King. Instead, they were defeated by him one by one in a flash. It was unbelievable, but she had to believe it. How could she fight this? The moment they clashed, Lan Zi had already thought of retreating. Such a powerful existence was not something that could be dealt with by just 3 to 5 people. If she wanted to deal with him, she could only rely on the sea of people to slowly wear him down. She turned her head to look at Lu Yi. She thought that Lu Yi could understand this point, but unexpectedly, Lu Yi, who had been repelled, pounced forward again with a determined expression without the slightest wavering. Giant armor also followed closely behind. It strode out, causing the palace to shake violently. Seeing this, Lan Zi gritted her teeth and rushed forward with her sabers. Although they were on opposite sides and she had many conflicts with Lu Yi before, she had no intention of abandoning her companions at such a time. In the main hall, spiritual power surged endlessly in the blink of an eye. 3 figures crisscrossed and rushed forward. They were then sent flying, but they rushed up again and took turns to attack continuously. The aftermath of the violent confrontation caused the ancient hall to fall apart, turning it into a pile of rubble. The Golden Corpse King's corpse devil displayed its absolute strength. Even when facing the 3 of them together, it still had the upper hand. It didn't even leave the radius of 3 feet from its seat. No matter how violent the attacks launched by Lu Yi and the others were, it was easily neutralized. It did not use any treasures. Its physical body was its most powerful treasure. The power that its punches and kicks could release was extremely terrifying. If it were not for the fact that the 3 of them were strong, they would have died on the spot. Even so, the 3 of them were in a precarious situation. In less than 30 breaths of time, the 3 of them were injured. Even Giant Armor, who had the strongest physique, had cracks on its body like porcelain. Blood flowed from those cracks. Lan Zi's aura also began to become chaotic. She wanted to ask Lu Yi to retreat first, but now that things had come to this, she could no longer force it. In any case, they had tested the Golden Corpse King's strength this time. It would not be too late to encircle and annihilate it when they gathered enough people next time. However, before she could say anything, she noticed some strange changes on Lu Ye's body. Lu Ye's momentum seemed to be stronger than before. The speed and power of his saber had also increased significantly. Moreover, this improvement was still continuing to increase. The Golden Corpse King was bewildered. Lan Zi could sense the changes in Lu Yi. The Golden Corpse King, who was facing Lu Yi head-on, could also sense it. Only then did he understand that the human in front of him did not use his full strength at the beginning. Of course, this was not the case. Facing a powerful enemy like the Golden Corpse King, how could Lu Yi dare to hide his strength? It was just that the power he showed at the beginning was his normal level. The improvement at this moment was the help brought about by the blood-stained spirit patterns. Previously, when the 8-man team of 9 regions was facing the encirclement and annihilation of the huge zombie horde, Lu Ye's body was covered in wounds. He deliberately did not take any healing pills, nor did he use his power to heal his wounds. Before the confrontation with the Golden Corpse King, he had already constructed the blood-stained spirit patterns on his body. As the spirit patterns continued to be used, the help it could give him naturally became more and more obvious. The blood-stained spirit patterns could be considered one of his trump cards. However, it was not easy to use this trump card. So far, he had not used it many times. This was because most of the enemies he encountered were the kind that could be dealt with quickly. There was no time for the blood-stained spirit patterns to take effect. However, facing the Golden Corpse King, the blood-stained spirit patterns could play a great role. Therefore, at this moment, under Lan Zi's astonished gaze, Lu Yi took the Golden Corpse King's attack head-on. However, he was not sent flying like before. Instead, his figure only floated back several feet before stabilizing again. There's hope. Lan Zi's eyes lit up. If Lu Ye's strength could continue to improve, the 3 of them might not be unable to kill the Golden Corpse King. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.